What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming. Time to take a look at some more StarCraft 2 commentary. We will be looking at a series today. This series is going to be between JYP and EG's PuMa. We can see we're here on Shattered Temple with JYP spawning as the red Protoss player over here in the 12 o'clock position. And then right next door over here in the 3 o'clock position is the blue Terran player, EG's PuMa. So yes, this is going to be a Terran versus Protoss, PuMa versus JYP. Game number 1 in the series between these two players here on Shattered Temple. Now, of course, as we can see, they are in that close air distance position, and as mentioned many times before, this of course means quite likely to see some sort of drop and or air harass eventually at some point in the game. It's just so tempting and so very effective. I would say certainly as a Terran player, being able to go with any sort of Marine heavy drop or Marine and Marauder drop at some point in the game certainly will be very effective. And even for the Protoss player JYP, Zealot bombing, something that can be incredibly effective, working your way up to a Warp Prism, getting in some Zealots, and then just hitting that resource line. Now I expect both players to spot the edge of their bases with buildings to allow them to see when that dropping is going to take place and if it takes place, but that of course will happen after they scout out where their opponents are. We can see PuMa opening up with that 10 depot and 12 racks. Going to keep an eye out to see if we see that 13 refinery or if he will be deciding to go for a quick expansion. Back over here, JYP has dropped his gateway. Pylon is coming on through, and he will be making his way across the map directly actually into that cross-positional spot first, and then he should be moving right on over here into that 3 o'clock position to actually scout out where PuMa is. Now, as we can see, it looks like PuMa has decided to go with that standard basic opener of that 10 depot, 12 racks, and 13 refinery, so we're not seeing any sort of crazy fast expansion from him, although he does still have the option to go for some sort of a 1 racks expand build. Not absolutely certain that that's going to be the case quite as of yet. JYP, realizing that PuMa was not down there in that cross-positional 6 o'clock position, is finally moving on over into the 3 o'clock, and he will finally be scouting out PuMa. Now, PuMa clearly trying to do something a little fancy here. He went for that full wall off and got that second depot much earlier than is necessary. Now, as you can see, he's way below that supply cap. You don't really have to get that depot until after that orbital command. In fact, getting that depot first delays your orbital command. So the entire point for PuMa there was that he really wanted that wall off up so that he could do whatever he plans on doing without JYP scouting it out whatsoever. Now, as we can see right now, PuMa is scouting out JYP's base, and there's a factory, so it was that factory transition that he was attempting to hide there. And we do have that Cybernetics core just finished right now for JYP, so we should be seeing that first Stalker. There it is. And also that Warp Gate research, both of which are being chrono boosted out right now. As we can see, JYP is on that second assimilator, and as mentioned prior, I do expect both players to scout the edge of their base eventually, making sure they've got full vision just to see if any sort of drop harass or anything like that does come through. Now, we're seeing some consistent re-scouting here by JYP. He's really just checking the attachment there of that racks. He wants to know if there's a tech lab reactor or nothing going on, and as we can see, PuMa having nothing on that yet. He has just finished his factory and right now working straight up into starport play. Now, he does have a second refinery as well. We can also see a tech lab, so we've got two really major options to consider right now: Blue Flame Hellions or working his way up into Banshees. Those are the two things one of which we should be seeing here from PuMa. And we'll have to wait until a couple more moments here before we actually fully realize what he is going for. Now, we do have a Stalker moving its way around the map. He is trying to find that SCV Scout, as we can see PuMa hiding that over here. We also have JYP with control of the center of the map there, holding that Zel Naga tower. Back over here, he is still on the 1 gateway, but that is because he has worked his way into his expansion. So JYP going for a very econ-heavy build early on here. And there's that transition. So here it is, opening up with Cloaked Banshees. PuMa will, in fact, be going air to start. And as I mentioned at the start of the game, that can certainly be very effective on this map with that very close air distance. He will be getting that first Cloak Banshee into JYP's base incredibly fast just because of the short distance between these two. Now, JYP does have a second and third gateway coming out, but very notably, he lacks a robotics, and this is a huge problem right now for JYP because without robotics, he will not be scouting out those Cloak Banshees, and there we go, finally dropping it. This is a proper move with a 1 gate expand, moving first into 2 gateways, and then getting robotics. This is going to be kind of the safest thing that he can do. Now, had he not gotten that robotics, we can obviously imagine the kinds of issues he would be running into against those Cloak Banshees. But now that he's working his way up to there, he should actually be okay. By the time that Cloak research finished, we should be just about seeing that first observer come out. So I don't think JYP will be taking too much damage from that Banshee, unless the Banshee can manage to take out a lot of that anti-air before anything else gets up for him. And still continuous scouting there by JYP, and realizing that something funny was going on, he did make sure that he's coming out with these additional stalkers to prepare for for this Banshee, and here it is right now. Cloak Research isn't finished yet. He's got 1 kill. There's kill number 2, killing off a total of 2 workers so far. Trying to get that 3rd one, unfortunately was unable to. As we can see, the robotics is in right now. That cloak is going to have to get dropped very soon, but here comes that first observer right now. We also have a transition into a Raven, so he's not actually getting a 2nd Banshee. He will be going straight into Raven, just sitting on that 1 Banshee, getting as many kills as he can. Realizing, though, with that robotics up, that an observer is very likely coming. We will be seeing PuMa actually just try to hide right now, make sure that he's away from those stalkers for when that observer is finally able to get some vision here, but trying to get an additional kill, and there it is, number 7 for the Banshee of PuMa. So PuMa with a total of 7 kills now. Hopefully he does push back into a safe position. He's actually going to be walking right by these stalkers. Very dangerous. The stalker's trying to get up close, but unfortunately just barely out of range. Very nice play there by PuMa, narrowly escaping with that Banshee. Will be able to actually just swing back all the way around over here and make his way back nice and safely home. Now this Marine, Tank, and Raven transition can be very, very effective. In fact, some nice spotting here by PuMa, trying to catch an observer scout that may be moving on in, sitting with the Raven and a few Marines over there. We have JYP actually sitting up right outside of PuMa's base. Now, PuMa will be planning a timing push here, a Marine, Tank, and Raven timing push. Now, the Marines themselves won't have any upgrades, but they'll just be utilizing that high DPS of the unit in general. It's really the tanks there, plus that point defense drone that we will be seeing from the Raven that's going to allow this push to be successful when PuMa does eventually decide to move out. Now we may see him move out sometime soon, or he could also very well wait until that siege tech finishes and try to time it perfectly so that he's arriving right when siege tech is available. Now back over here for JYP, we are seeing right now coming out with a couple of immortals, 1 in play. Here comes that 2nd. That of course will allow him to target fire down those tanks very effectively. And PuMa right now moving out with the pretty much all in. We can see very few SCVs left on the line. He is really dedicated to this push right now. SCVs leading the way, Marines in the center of the bunch, and tanks on the backside. That Raven up there with that cloak detection, but most importantly, it's that point defense drone against these stalkers that this will be most effective against. And we can see again what's going to happen here is these SCVs will be up front, soaking up some of the damage, allowing those Marines and tanks to do as much damage as possible. But here we go right now. JYP is ready for this. Moving down with the push. There is a Guardian Shield. Also moving down with those Immortals. Target fire down the tank. 1 tank is down. He's going to go straight for that 2nd tank. Yes, he is. But look at that Marine DPS doing so much damage and forcing JYP back. That point defense drone as well, helping tremendously against those stalkers. Vision of the high ground from the Raven, allowing those Marines to still shoot up. We're going to see JYP pull all of his guys off the line. A danger right now is that PuMa could take out this expansion, but JYP, he is still in this game, and PuMa actually lost a real lot there. He's got some reinforcements coming on through. Now look at this. He's clearly still on 1 base. He's actually continued to work up that SCV production just in case he can't take it out, and I think PuMa's finally realizing that, hey, JYP is not losing the game at this point. He's going to wait until he has a few more units before he continues his push. One thing that he definitely needs to do is deny this expansion from going up, because he is tremendously far behind economically speaking right now. We take a look at the income tab. PuMa trying to keep on par, but still behind JYP. JYP sitting in a phenomenal position. This is because, of course, PuMa pulled so many SCVs off the line. Now, PuMa will be dropping this expansion and trying to set up some sort of a contain, and then it's really going to be on JYP to try to break that contain, get himself out of the base, and then return some damage to PuMa. PuMa really not in the position to expand right now. We can see that main getting very low on resources. Same thing is happening right now for JYP, although he's sitting in a little bit better position in terms of overall resources, simply because he had that expansion up and was working off of that for a little while, so didn't end up consistently losing resources from his main there. Right now, really, it's all about JYP trying to break this, and hopefully, I don't see anything in the works right now, but I would really love to see if he came out with a War Prism, allowing him to do some drop harass inside of PuMa's main. PuMa's main very undefended, so if he came out with the War Prism, that really could be something that could allow him to get himself back in the game, because right now, again, he's just contained on 1 base, and he's just worried about trying to get out and, you know, trying to do some damage. In all honesty, PuMa could try to expand sometime soon. Again, it doesn't look like it's happening. He's just continue to pump out units, and he wants to try to do as much damage as possible to JYP, and again, continue to keep him contained. So PuMa right now sitting outside of the main base with the contain. JYP still not seeing any transition. We're not seeing any next step. He's just continuing to work up his units and again try to break through. Now we've got a couple units here in the center of the map and actually trying to possibly do a counterattack right now. JP, oh no, unfortunately JYP losing those 2 zealots. He was trying to warp in. He's got a few units. I'm not sure it's gonna be enough. Actually, he can keep these Marines on the move, and we got a couple units right now. So JYP is is planning a counterattack. This is his course of action. Instead of going for that drop harass with the War Prism, he is just trying to counterattack. So JYP warping out units outside of his main base, and this will allow him to push out with a counterattack against PuMa. Now the concern, of course, is we've got a tank set up, lots of Marine DPS, and look at this. Also, we'll be seeing some cloaked Banshee work. There's just that one Banshee in play right now, but he will be moving up and trying to do a little bit of damage to JYP. JYP, though, with the Observer Scout, able to spot it and snipe that Banshee out the sky. PuMa just still set up comfortably in that contained. Couple units for JYP over here. In fact, he's not ready for that counterattack because PuMa is in a very nice defensive position. And here we go. PuMa heading back now to the center of the map. JYP needs to be careful and actually retreat. However, he may get sandwiched, as we can see PuMa now moving down with these forces. JYP just narrowly escaping there with those units and realizing the contain is no longer there. JYP pushing out to the center of the map, and this is going to be it right now. The Clash of the Titans. Sometime very soon, we may see JYP attempt that sandwich. There's so many Marines here, and even without those upgrades, once more, the DPS is just so intense. Tank setting up siege and able to get a couple of shots here on JYP's units. JYP needs to be careful, taking a lot of unnecessary shellings there from that tank line. Just needs to be very wary about where he decides to engage. PuMa getting ready to move up into the main with that Cloak Banshee. Here comes the push right now. Tank setting up, couple point defense drones get dropped down. Heavy Marine push, forcing all of JYP's units back. And here it is right now. Cloak Banshee in the main will start working down that resource line of JYP. PuMa continuing up the push. He's just churning out units again. No transition at all prepared. He's going straight for it right now. He's winning the game on one base. That's his plan anyways. JYP really needs to be careful about walking into this, especially when those tanks are set up in siege. It's just a very tough position. We got one tank there re-sieging, trying to get a little bit closer, and here we go. JYP forced to engage. A couple force fields again drop down, attempt to allow those Elts to move on in and do as much damage as possible. We got a couple of Phoenixes trying to help against that tank line, but again, that Marine DPS is absolutely nuts. Looks like that Banshee has been taken care of, but the Marines just doing so much damage to JYP's units here and absolutely shredding through everything. Even in getting those tanks lifted off, JYP is forced to call the GG. JYP opened up this game going one gate into expand, while PuMa decided to stay on one base and go for some quick cloaked Banshee work. PuMa arrived in JYP's base before his robotics finished. This allowed PuMa to get off a few kills, eventually laying down the cloak on his Banshee and continuing up the killing spree. It wasn't until JYP came out with the Observer that he was finally able to deal with this Banshee harass from PuMa. PuMa managed to get off a total of about 6 or 7 workers killed, so being able to do a little bit of damage early in the game. PuMa followed up with a Marine tank SCV push as well as with this Raven, allowing him to drop that point defense drone, helping tremendously against those Stalkers. This was enough of a push to force JYP back and eventually make him lose that expansion. We then saw PuMa move into a contain, keeping JYP in his base. Unable to leave his base due to the contain, we saw JYP attempt to push out with some counterattack aggression. However, PuMa was amply prepared with a siege tank and a couple of Marines, and this prevented JYP from doing any sort of successful counterattack. Our final engagement came around 16 minutes as PuMa worked up his forces, getting heavy Marine numbers, setting up a nice siege line, and it just proved to be way too much for JYP to handle. He did not have the proper unit composition, and unfortunately was not able to break this very, very strong aggressive push here from PuMa, and was forced to call the GG. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. That was game number 1 here between PuMa and JYP. We will be moving on to game number 2 in just one moment. As always, if you like the content, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Keep watching and keep owning.